Hello, I'm Dee Swiger, and it says I'm live, which is great because, well, I guess it is great to be live. But this is D Ocean's Deep Woo. Welcome to the show. And tonight thought I'd talk about something I do mention all the time, but um, it's basically dealing with the matrix, dealing with how do we deal with the matrix. Hey, Linda. How do we get our super hacked God mode powers back, right? How do we unlock our super hacked God mode powers? Well, there are people that do amazing things, um, even inside the sim. So, and I'm one of them, I guess. I know others. I mean, we do things like manipulate weather and heal and other things that are supposed to be. You're not supposed to be able to do that, but you can. And magic, you can. That is absolutely part of the game, though. Is you can unlock that. Some people come by it other than others. I mean, they seem to have a talent easier than others. Um, some people have a harder time with it. I can tell you part of what drives the whole thing is well, okay, your beliefs, what is in your head. In fact, there was some high intelligence that came out that really we kind of hacked ourselves in a bad way or allowed ourselves to be. And I kind of get the slick talking used car salesman kind of entity involved in that. But really, we, if we hadn't been so naive, we couldn't have been altered like this to not have those abilities. So we had to allow it on some level. We'll talk about all that and how to unallow it. Okay. And yep. Oh, I am? Well, thank you, Wooski. What a name. Okay, Wooski. So that's part of what it's been requested that I start to talk more and more about that. How do you do some of these? Well, here, listen to me. It's not like you got to be perfect, right? You don't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to be good. You don't have to sell your soul. You don't have to make deals with dark entities. Well, I mean, you can do all that if you really want to. I mean, I wouldn't advise it, but if that's your thing, um, but really, that's not what it takes to start to unlock some of these superpowers, so called superpowers. And really, a lot of us already know we can do things. We're just looking for how in the heck do we control it? That I run into that a lot. I know that was my main question is I know I can do some stuff. How the heck do I control it? How do I get it to do it when I want to do it? And how do I get it to do what I want to do instead of all this wild stuff? Because I know I'm doing stuff. Yeah, you are. You are all the time. Because that's what we do. I got news. You don't believe it. Believe it. It's what we do. Yeah. Woo is what we do. So let me run the intro and we'll talk more. And remember, just as in the description I said, it's just tips, tricks, and hacks for playing that massively multiplayer, total immersion VR holofractal learning game called Life on Earth. It has nothing to do with real life, which takes place outside the Matrix. Yep, life outside the Matrix is very different. But yes, this is. Let me get my lovely intro playing here. Come on now, cooperate. Abracadabra. Well, the real question is how do you get super hacked God mode on YouTube? Apparently, like I don't want to like bitch and moan about it too much, but as we know that this happens to people, that the tube is can be cruel, and people are telling me they don't get their notification. So, but it's recorded, and you can always come back and find it if you can find the channel. Some people were having trouble with that too. Imagine that. But that's okay. Like I said, I do have an account at Rumble, and this weekend, when I am going to have some time coming up, I should have some time coming up, and I should be able to figure out Rumble or start to. So I think I'll start there and go on with the other ones after that. James Ortiz, how you doing? Yeah, you've been getting them. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Now, some people say unsubscribe and resubscribe if you're not getting it. So you might try that. Yeah. So anyway, the thing that I think is probably I should address first is, like I always say, when you're reading cards or using any other tool, any other focus, we call them a focus. Okay, you are the power, and one of the things you've got to realize is you are the power. There are people who can do way more, even, I mean, than you would imagine, than most people can imagine is possible. There are people who can do things like start fires. They say that the Tibetan monks can fly, not just levitate, but actually fly like a flock of birds. And then there are other people that seem to be able to do other very strange things. I mean, have eidetic memory and all of this stuff. So while some of it may be a talent you come in with, uh, all of us should be able to do that because technically we're all God. So every one of us that's a real person and not a background person or NPC should be able to do this stuff. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's how you know. I guess there's this one psychic that I watch her stuff sometimes, and people would write in and ask her, and the reading was all about, am I an NPC? I'm like, you're asking if you're an NPC or a real person. And and she was saying that sometimes she had to tell him, no, you're an NPC, not a real person. And I'm sitting there going, how would you tell, and then they'd get mad. And she seemed kind of amazed that they'd get upset. But, how would you not get upset? At hearing that you're not a real person. You're an NPC. No. And then she said she had to stop answering that question. She no longer answers that question. I'm thinking it's kind of like if somebody asks you when they're going to die, you never tell them you're going to die XYZ, because you can actually cause a self-fulfilling prophecy to happen that way. That's one reason. The other reason, because we're that powerful. We can believe we're going to die and die. I mean, there are stories about people who believed that they were going to die and they absolutely died, even though there was no reason. Like the guy who got locked in a freezer car and read that it was a freezer car and thought he was freezing to death and froze to death, but the freezer wasn't even on and it wasn't even that cold. But in his mind, he was going to freeze to death in the freezer car. And stuff like that. People who think they're going to die at a certain age, they can manufacture that if they really believe that. So if you can manufacture all that, you can manufacture other stuff too. You can manifest other abilities. I mean, we use our crazy super hacked God mode all the time without realizing we're doing it. But the problem is using it for yourself. First, you have to talk your subconscious into believing that you deserve to use it. You have to get that subconscious working for you instead of against you. And this is, as far as I can tell, what happened to us is you start programming things into the subconscious that are limiting, that are scary, that are diminishing. That subconscious is what runs so many. Well, actually, that's probably where all of our and the definition of subconscious is relatively a new thing, you know. But it's our subconscious seems to be where all the abilities lie, right? And we talk about the pineal gland and everything, but honestly, it's in your subconscious where the programs reside, okay? And the programs that have limited you reside there. So really, that's what we have to address in order to get you into your power fully, is you have to address this. Gosh, I can't. This is a new apparatus, so okay, I got to break it in. Sure, ask me a question, Marilena. Marilena, what? Okay, well, I'm waiting for your question, Marilena. Um, so we're going to deal with the subconscious. We're going to talk about cleaning out your subconscious and why that's so necessary and why um, you feel like you can't do this stuff, why you've been convinced. Everybody tries to convince us. Science tries to convince us we can't really do this. There is no magic or has been. I think they're beginning to turn that page, though. I think really that's going to come down. Um, as a matter of fact, I've foreseen a point at which science and religion actually become one because they realize that the belief system and the science prove each other. And I don't mean religion as we know it right now. I don't mean that at all. But our belief system about life, the universe, and everything, and our science will someday be in agreement. And when they are, when science takes into consideration the metaphysical, um, the non-physical, the consciousness aspect, and they're starting to do that. They're just at the tip of that. When they take that into consideration, then the two will come together and be something else entirely. And then our science and our beliefs will not be disparate anymore. Okay, and Marilena's question is, and hang on, let me see if I can get it up on the screen. Is it coming up? Ah, there we go. If I am my higher self and I am here on earth, once we have finished here, I go back to being my higher self. Do I return to the source or directly to my oversoul? Okay, well, I think we probably are going to have some uh, differences of the way we speak about things. Once again, I said our speech has been babbled. We don't really have great words. We can't even agree on what these words mean a lot of times. Like there are so many terms that people go, no, it's not that, it's this. No, it's not this, it's that. No, you're saying it wrong. Okay, this is what I'm trying to get across. No matter how you call it, there are certain things that work and certain things that don't. And even though our language has been babbled, so it's very hard to talk about adequately. And even after we come up with terms for this stuff, it's still hard to explain. So try to follow when I say the source. What do you consider your source? And what do you consider your oversoul? Really, all of us go back to one giant oversoul. However, the immediate oversoul, it looks like, from all accounts, even my own, um, that there are different levels of going home to your, uh, how can I put it? You are always God. You always have been. You always will be. God always was. God always will be. There isn't anything outside of that. That's all there is. There is a lot of games and fun and learning experiences and things God has to from the way that I see it, okay, the way that I can describe it is what's going on is God is infinite. God has infinite abilities. However, it's no fun just sitting there like a blob having infinite abilities if you don't use them. And in order to really see what we are, we need mirrors. We need other viewpoints. But if you're the only being in the universe, how do you get another viewpoint? Well, very creatively, you create other mirrors of yourself, other parts of yourself to look at yourself with, to try out things, to do things. It's so basically, by the time we get down to this life here, we've already split off many times and split into many people. So, in that way, we are, some people call it a fractal. Some people call it soulmates. The people that we're soulmates with are, we're just the last splitting off that happened. And I know that this can be done because I've done it with myself. I have actually put myself in various locations at once. This is something God can do. You can do it too. You can be in more than one place or have more than one viewpoint. It was a surprise to me too. And of course, I'm talking astrally. Now, apparently, this can also happen physically, but when you die, you do a review and then you kind of get a choice of what you want to do next. What do you want to do? Because there are some realms from which this just looks like a just some fun little stop you made out of curiosity. There are others where this is a school and it's terribly important to you and you're learning. You know, it depends on which level you're looking at it from. And we've all got all these different levels that we can look at this from. And when you start accessing that, you start seeing how we agreed to all this stuff, right? Because we are and people look at this and we think, I wouldn't agree to this. Why would I ever agree to this? Well, from where you were, first of all, when you agreed to it, and I've seen that place. I mean, I've re-experienced that place. Where you are there, you're coming from a place where you're all powerful. You you have no fear and you have no pain. And here looks very um, tame in some regards. And you get told that, wait a minute, once you get here, you're not coming out until you're done. This is a really long school. This is a really long curriculum here. Um, but there is a lot of allure to coming here and being limited and then breaking through those limitations. Because, you know, if you spend all your time being an unlimited being, and there are still many things to check out once you die. I mean, there are many realms, there are many what some people call dimensions or densities or whatever, and many different beings you can be in, many different states of beings you can be in. And so, you have infinite choices. Um, it seems like each level you go, uh, you end up with more choices. So, and then really, I guess super hacked God mode would probably be the people who ascend and then can come and go as they please, and you know these are the people that are legendary. But I guess it's happened, and then people see them after they ascend, and they come back and appear to people and show people what they can do, uh, which is, you know, once again, what we would consider godlike powers. So it's kind of hard to answer your question in the context you asked it. Do you return to source or directly to your oversoul? Well, in a way, you return to source, but but you also go to your yeah, here we go. The terminology is hard. Do you go to be complete with your oversoul? You go back into the soup, so to speak. Um, and you can. And in a way, yeah, we do go to be with, I guess you could call it that. Um, and the thing from the Bible that comes up is to be absent from the body is present with God. That's how things were designed, is once we're out of the body, we're God again. We're back with God again. We're not that we ever weren't away from God, because you can't get away from God. God is everywhere and everything, and even the stuff we don't like, and even the stuff that seems to be very evil. Remember, this is a school, and even all of that stuff is simulated. It's all simulated. Okay. Now, there can be personalities behind it, but they're personalities like you are, on a different level, with different abilities, but they're personalities like us. They're not different in that regard. Let's see what Linda is saying. Some souls have other lessons to learn. Some decide to not come back. And yeah, some decide to come back and teach and learn. Yeah. There are plenty reasons why you would come back here. Um, so, no, did Melissa come in? Hi, Melissa. Asking because you want to know what your purpose is here. Okay, we can work on that if you'd like. Um, if you would like to work on that, Marilena. So I finally just broke down and asked the universe directly. Okay, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I don't feel like I belong here. I mean, I never felt like I belonged. This place is inside out, backwards, and upside down. What the heck am I doing here? But then we ask, and we don't know how to listen. We're not taught how to listen to the universe telling you consciousness. And some people will say, it's not really the universe, it's consciousness. Okay, it's consciousness. We want to call it that. Some people call it the universe. Okay, so let's quit fighting over the words. Try to get to the meat of the subject, huh? because the words have been babbled, you know, and intentionally, I'm quite sure our words are still being babbled. So, yeah, when you pass on, when you die, you will go through, yeah, what Linda's calling an overview of what happened or the review, uh, and you'll get some options as to what you want to do. I can see here on in this life, I I asked at first when I first started asking, and I really was listening. The answer was simply to learn things, all kinds of things. I learned all kinds of weird things. I really have to say that a lot of it was not stuff that I ever thought I would learn, when I was younger. If you would have told me what I would be learning, then I felt the energy shift and I got the answer to teach. To teach. Now that you've learned some stuff, start teaching it, okay? So I taught for a while and I did my best to teach. And yet it was very difficult because once again, uh, when you die, it's very hard to use words to explain what happens there. I do my best. There are parts of it that you just can't explain, that words fail. And, I have gotten there in meditation as well, not just in my NDE. As a matter of fact, I have gotten some of the higher realms in meditation than I even got to with my NDE. So you don't have to wait to die. So, yeah, that's what I keep saying, Lynn. I keep saying, I swear this is going to be my last trip here. I want to make sure I get all my stuff done and then I just come back to visit. I do not want to have to go another hitch through here. I don't want to have to go through another life here. Um, so as far as I'm concerned, now there's different levels of this. There's what I suspect to be, and I should do a video about this, is home what Thoth was calling the halls of Amenti. That was a school, that was a library, and involved in that teaching. Is that what I remember? Because in which case, Thoth and Seshet, having met Thoth's wife in a cave while I was dead, would make a lot of sense. Because then that would be how I got the knowledge passed, was in my, and you can refer to, I did do a video about my near death experience and what happened there. And yet there are some things that I can't even really go into or explain. It's just too hard. See, that's what I want to get to, Marilyn, right here. We're told two different things, aren't we? Aren't we? We're told, one set of advisors will teach us that we're going home and, it's a place and It's outside the matrix. We're going home outside of the matrix and so on and so forth. But real home is bigger than that. Even, you know, I mean, even getting outside of the matrix and going back to uh, what some people have said is probably Atlantis, what some people have said is Shambhala. That is still not the totality. And any place where you have, oh, and by the way, any place where you have any kind of physical existence at all, is not you're not there because very advanced beings have absolutely no need of physical anything. So there, I think, are levels that we're dealing with here. And you do get a choice as to whether or not to come back here. Although I guess some people get very strongly advised that they need to come back here. And it seems like, or from all the stories that I hear, and when I put all the stories together, it paints a very different picture than what traditional religions try to tell us about what happens. So, you can't even begin to tell some people some of this. But I will tell you, every moment that I was having my NDE, I was absolutely worried about nothing. There was no pain, and um, there was no judgment, there was no fear. It wasn't scary in the least. I didn't see hell. I and most people don't. I really get amazed at the people who see hell. It's like I really have to wonder what happened that they saw hell. Because most people don't see that. I mean, really, your vast majority of stories of NDEs don't involve any place like that. So, did they create it? Or did they buy into it? Is that why they're there? Why they see it? Probably. Hey, Pam. Oh, yeah. So basically, I think you get a choice. Do I want to stay and rest? Do I want to go on to somewhere else? Do I want to, visit be in another reality, another version of reality? This reality, do I not want to be in? Do I want to go and take another dive into this place here? Um, you do get a choice. And this place has been so traumatic. On one hand, I think, and I'm kind of I have been getting this, that on the one hand, yes, this place is, the matrix has been virused. It's not running the way it should be. And that's why we're fixing it. We're in here fixing it. Some of us are techies in here fixing it. On the other hand, in the bigger picture, that's part of our training too. That's also part of our training. That's also part of our experiencing. So there's multiple levels of this. Now, as far as I can figure out, as far as I hear, as far as I am getting the picture, is that we were on this level here. We were pretty much tricked into allowing ourselves to be diminished. And we thought it was going to be a good thing. We thought the reverse matrix was going to be a good thing, the inverted matrix. We were convinced, tricked, that it was somehow going to help us and maybe shorten our time that we had to be here. So, or like it was going to just supercharge whatever. And it really was a trick. And we actually manufactured a lot of limitations ourselves. So, and we are so infinitely freaking creative, we can do that. This is the story. I'm sure, quite sure, that this is told in the story of the dragon and the dragonfly that I used to tell all the time when the dragon card would come up when I would read the medicine cards about dragonfly, is that dragon was once an all-powerful being, magical and wise, and could do anything highly magical. And coyote, the trickster in Native American belief, came and convinced dragon to prove how powerful dragon was. And the ego got in the way. The ego got him. And in the end, the ego got him. They say, because basically convinced dragon, I bet you can't be just a little bug. And dragon says, sure I can, and turns into a little bug. And trickster says, oh, but you're not really a little bug, that you only look like a little bug. This is an illusion. No, I bet you can't turn yourself into a real little bug, because if you were really a little bug, you wouldn't have these magical powers and you wouldn't know you're a dragon, because you know right now that you're still a dragon and you still have all your magical powers. So dragon got caught and said, I can do that though. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that. Forgetting that if you forget that you're magical, if you forget that you're really a dragon, you can't change back. And until you remember who you are, you're stuck being a bug. It's a very deep lesson. And I think it's the lesson that we're learning here, that we have to learn here, is that who are we really? That we really are the dragon, not the bug. Okay? We really are this powerful, magical being. We really are God. We really are God, not these little creatures, these little avatars where we're playing. That's not us. Hello, Richard. How you doing? Good to see you. Oh, you have a very own dragon and a dragonfly. Oh, that's good, Marilyn. Yeah, you know what? Isn't that funny? Most of us do have a dragon. I have a dragon too, a big purple dragon. Um, I don't talk about my big purple dragon very much. Anyway, because some people don't understand that. They've got issues with dragons and have ideas about what dragons have to be and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the main thing is here, how do we get it out of, how do we uncreate the idea that we're limited when we've got so many layers plastered over the truth, so many layers of varnish, so many layers of BS covering who we really are. We're hiding from ourselves. We're hiding ourselves from ourselves to try and prove something. And how many people get in trouble when they try to prove something, right? I mean, we do get in trouble doing that. You know, it's like, oh, you think you got something to prove, and then you try to prove something, you get yourself into trouble a lot of times. So that's the story of how Dragon got himself into trouble. And it's kind of how we got ourselves in trouble. Apparently, we were convinced that it would be, and it is actually such a big deal to such an amazing trick to come into this highly limited existence and then come out of it again and be able to work our way out of it, be able to release the chains that we put ourselves and come out of it. And in order to do that, I guess it sometimes takes a lot of lives and of unconditioning ourselves. So, as that's as far as I've got on that, is that if we want to be able to do the things that we want to do, that we all want to do, and have our more fun here, first of all, we've got to get rid of the limitation, the reversed, because it was like the reversed matrix. Like I said, on one level, it shouldn't have happened. On the other level, it had to happen because everything happens. Everything that could possibly happen will happen. So it was due to happen. You know, in some in some reality somewhere, I'm already dead. I know because I saw myself die. So I moved myself to here and I'm still with you. But I saw myself. I was going to die. And I did die in that other. I'm convinced that I am dead in that other reality. There are some realities where the last time you saw me was back at my place. Last time you heard from me was back at my place, and I died. After that, and you never knew what happened to me, and you would say to yourself, wonder what happened to her. She must have died. And some of you who were mediums, I'd probably tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, y'all. You'd be go, what? Oh, gosh, is that you? But in this one, I moved and I'm okay. I'm alive. So that's a very long answer to your question, but you pretty much got infinite possibilities of what can happen. Okay. And a lot of it depends on you. And some of it, I think, depends on what you believe too. So, the thing we're dealing with here is how do we get out of the programming that we use to make ourselves small, that we use to make ourselves um, the little bug instead of, and it's funny because that is really what some prayers kind of sound like. There's a prayer that, oh God, please forgive me because I am a wretched blah 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 blah, and it's reinforced that you don't have any power. I mean, there are some religions that make you say it over and over that you don't have any power. That only God has power, and you have to go do this and that in order to have it. Or if you don't go through that way, then it's the devil. So, and unfortunately, that's the one that really took hold in this reality. In other realities, imagine a reality where that's not the one that made it. So, because there were actually more like three branches of Christianity that happened, and one was the Gnosticism, one was the uh, I'm not going to go into that. That's another show. There were really three branches of Christianity back in the old days, and the one that won was the violent one, the really freaking violent one. Killed off the other two. So, and I'm not going into that tonight. However, I will probably someday. I have mentioned it before. Yeah, it's so hard for us from this perspective, a limited perspective, Pam, to think of alternate realities, how many there could be and how many we are in simultaneously. And we're in them all simultaneously. No, we're not just hopping from one to one, but our consciousness, our awareness, our attention. See, I got to use several words to try and get the message across. Our attention is in this one. But what if we had put our attention in another one? And what if we consciously learn to put our attention in different ones? And there are people who absolutely say this is how they do what they do. They find, and this is called quantum jumping. Quantum jumping is when you want to do something, want to be something, and you look into alternate another dimension, trying to find, and by dimension, I don't fight me over words, another version of reality, another version of you, and there are infinite ones. You find another version of you that's already living that life. You move your awareness to that one. Just like I moved from the one that was going to die and stay where I was into this one, where I lived, and I'm still here with you. I moved. I literally picked up my house and moved too. That was part of the deal. In order to fully leap into that one where I didn't die, I had to literally move house. Now, you don't always have to do that. However, in order to get your, how was it put? In order to get your reality to change that you're in, you kind of, well, no, you don't kind of. You have to get your body to help you follow through on the change you made. So you have to make some semblance of the action on the physical world to change that reality, to move your Abby in that direction, so to speak. Even if you don't, and I've had this happen, even if I don't entirely can't quite get through with it yet, sometimes it happens anyway, because I have started down that road. So the change happens anyway. And so it has something to do with moving your energy, which it takes energy to move the savvy around. Okay. So you move your Abby in that direction along with your energy, along with your concept, your idea, your image, your. See what I'm saying? You have an idea what you want. You find that part, that you, that version of you that has that. And you decide that's where you're going to live now, where your attention is going to be, is in that being. Sometimes your old reality will fight you and try to pull you back into it. And part of the trick is not letting that happen. Sometimes you will get versions of your old reality trying to say, oh, you didn't really do it. You know, it'll make you think you didn't really do it. But you got to hold on. I know. I recently made a switch. I'm in a different version now. I recently made a switch and it was a change of mind. I started to move my Avi also into that state of mind. Now, the opportunities are showing up that are going to allow me to make that switch. Okay, so all I have to do is keep moving myself into the path of that. That's how we get super hack God mode. Now, am I at the top of this? No, I'm working on it. Um, it's a series of steps. I suppose if you really, I suppose there are ways to go right into that, an abrupt change. But the thing is that abrupt changes can be very shocking. Even small changes have a tendency to weird us out a lot. When you make a shift and things disappear and people disappear or people completely change, because that's what it's like. Once you start doing this, you will usually find that things have changed. Are you ready for that thing to really have changed? Are you really ready? You think you are? Are you really? Because there'll be other things surrounding that will have changed too. And like me, I've been telling you, I've been saying this. I don't know how many people are listening to me. Maybe everybody thinks I'm making a joke. I'm absolutely not. But ever since I died and decided to go down this path, when I came back, I've been Mandela affected. I've had things changing and changing and changing and changing. For a while, I didn't understand why. It was just that I was noticing the change because you change things all the time. You change into one path or another. You don't notice. You don't know that you did. Your mind actually has an ability, this has been proved, that it will start constructing a story to explain what happened. It happens with mundane events all the time. People will construct a story to explain something that they can't explain, or a change, or whatever. Your mind is very powerful that way. It will start constructing a story to cover up the difference. So you can actually be shifting all the time and not know it because your mind keeps telling you, no, it wasn't really like that. It was like this. It was always like this. And I have seen it happen live in real time where I have gone through an event with somebody. And it seems like if you're the initiator, or if you were among the initiators of an event, you will remember, sometimes briefly only, you will remember that you changed it. But then people forget and they come up with some kind of explanation. I've seen it happen. And I've been absolutely like, you were there. You were with me. We were talking about it. Talking about what? It was just this. No, no, it wasn't. Yeah, come on. Of course it was. And it'll be a quote unquote logical explanation. But that isn't what happened. And sometimes I'll retell the conversation we had, and they're like, huh, you're imagining things. And I have to sit there and go, okay, because there is no way to prove it because there's no what we call residue. Residue is something left over from the original event. And even if there is residue, they'll find a way to explain that away too. And I mean, even very smart people will do this. It seems to be built in. I think what happened is mine got damaged. my filter got damaged when I died, or it was somehow altered or taken out. I don't know. I think maybe I still don't notice things. Maybe I still have that from time to time, but your your mind is perfectly willing to make a story for you that explains your circumstances, your new circumstances. And that's why you don't know you do it. But you do it all the time. And you do it a lot of times in a negative way because you're programmed to do it in a negative way. You've been continually programmed to do it in a negative way against your own real desire. And a lot of times it's to please somebody or to think that you're a good person or any one of a number of things is why you're allowing that to happen. To be godly, to be not that kind of person, there's so many reasons, so many reasons. Somehow, the reason I can see these changes is something blue when I died, had my NDE. It started out small or got damaged because it didn't happen all at once, but it was like bit by bit. First, it was, I've described it, it's kind of like when it's warning you that it's about to rain. There's a drop, and you don't even know, did I just feel a drop of rain? And there's a couple of drops, and you're like, I'm pretty sure that feels like rain. It might be getting ready to rain. And then there's drop, 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 drop. Oh, yeah, it's about to really rain. And then, pretty soon it's really raining. Okay, well, it's really raining for me. Mandela effects. It's not in a real hardcore rain, but you know what? What if it was? What if things were changing that fast for you? Could you really handle? Could you really handle that storm, that rain? Could you? Thank goodness it came on gradually. Thank goodness it was like, thank you. I had time to get used to it. I mean, I would do things like I remember one time, usually the big ones would happen at what they call the hinges of the year, spring and the spring equinox, which we've got one coming up. I think there's another big shift coming up for spring equinox. I think reality is going to look very, very different soon for a lot of us after the spring equinox. So I know this is deep, but it's what you come to the show for, right? It's the deep woo. Let's face it, you come for the deep woo. And this is the deep, deep woo. Okay. So a lot of times I decided to go down a certain path because I needed to. I had some kind of obstacle jump out in front of me. I had to figure out how to get through that. I decided I need this. Was it a download? Some people call it a download. Was it a download? I don't know, maybe. What do you want to call it? Once again, don't get tangled up in words. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just pick up the meat of what I'm saying here. Just pick up the essence of it with, your third eye, your heart, whatever. Some people say, no, you do it with your heart. Okay. Don't argue. Just pick it up anyway you pick it up. Okay. Pick up my meaning. Intuit it, whatever. What I'm trying to say is you make reality. I make reality. The only limits we have is what is in our psyche. Our limits are in our psyche. We want to change things We have to go there. We have to go into our subconscious. This is why subliminal stuff works. Um, the subliminal stuff, and this is also, remember, we aren't really solid. We're dealing with energy here. All that really exists is energy. There really are no particles. We discovered the God particle. That's okay. There's smaller things, I'm sure, and bigger things. God particle, indeed. And then everybody's going, oh, Mandela effect. It's like, welcome to my world that I've been living in for nearly 40 years now, where all kinds of little things change. And if I try to argue with somebody, I will not find the proof because that's been uh, affected. The residue is gone, unless there's some residue. And even if there is some residue, people don't generally accept it. They'll come up with a story to cover it. That's what people do. That's what our minds do. So there you go. If you've ever wondered why don't I remember why if I did this? That's why. Let me have some water. Looking at this on the outside of that phenomena, and maybe that's why I have that, is so I can tell you, people who are ready to hear it, that that's what's happening. You are constantly making decisions that shift you into a different reality, a different version of yourself, where your attention goes into that reality. In some reality, and in the Mandela effects, this is an interesting one. The Mandela effect itself. In the Mandela effect itself, he was dead. Nelson Mandela was dead. He had died. For a lot of people, he died. All of a sudden, he's alive. But this happened with a lot of people. This didn't just happen with Nelson Mandela. This happened with a lot of people. All of a sudden, you hear they're alive. Whoa. I know I heard about, no, I'll tell you, if John Lennon ever shows up as an old man, I know I've really shifted, right? But I mean, it's so freaky that some of these people that you read about them dying. The one that really got me, though, was Ed McMahon being part of Publishers Clearinghouse, and now he's not. That was my whole childhood and most of my young adulthood. He was going around delivering checks to people. Now they're saying it never happened. It did in the reality I grew up in. So now finally we're hitting the point where everybody is getting to the point where they're starting to see, more and more people are starting to see what I've been seeing all this time, that the world is not set, that things can change. And they're saying, oh, it's CERN. I don't know, maybe. Oh, it's this, oh, it's that. Oh, we all really died in 2012. And now we're in an alternative reality. And this is that's when, I don't know, maybe that's when we got put in a simulation for safekeeping. I don't know. Maybe that is the date. Maybe we did actually die. Maybe our consciousnesses got uploaded into a sim on that date. Hey, let's ask. What the heck? And I'm sure in some reality that did happen. That could happen in some reality. Is it this one, though? Okay, so let's ask. That's somebody's version. And I don't take this as set in stone, so to speak, but let's see. Okay, first we test it. I have a little pet dog. No, it's saying no. I have a cat named Cowboy. Okay, I named him Cowboy. Okay, fine. Okay, so the theory is, did we all die in 2012 and were uploaded into a simulation for safekeeping? Oh, yeah, that's what happened. So is that why you guys are all now experiencing what I've been experiencing all this time? Is that the date that the simulation happened? Is that the date that we were put in the simulation in the first place? Kind of looks like it. Maybe that's true. So maybe one world ended. Maybe our world really did end in 2012. But then again, as I just told you, in some reality, that actually happened. Did it happen necessarily in this one? Well, we are finding some residue, aren't we? So, okay, Linda. Good night, sweetie. But did it really happen in this reality? In this version? Okay, so I'm talking different versions. Once again, we come back to the how do you get the ultra hacked God mode? You move to it. Hello, Philifier. How you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. So we can go by steps. We could probably go there much faster, but it would be a heck of a shock, you know? So usually we go a lot slower. We go in steps. We get rid of some of those onion layers, and I constantly am referring to it like an onion. Because there is, and then it's funny because after I came up with that, I came up with this, gosh, like an onion, you peel in layers. Then I started hearing that that is an old saying, but was it always? Or is it just an old saying in the reality I'm in now? That life is like an onion. Why? And that is like a saying, and people say, why? Why is that? Why is life like an onion? Well, if you think about it, there's layers. There's always these layers. And it's like some people describe it as those Russian nesting dolls. You open another one and there's another one inside it, and you open another one. Um, so basically, you're going through layers of realizations. So if you have something that you thought you cleared come back up again, um, you're really not having exactly the same version of it coming up. You just hit another layer of it, because who knows how many coats of this have been pasted over the reality of us. Who knows how many layers there really are that we're trying to peel. Mhm. So you can't be sure that you're on that last layer, but when you do get rid of that last layer, it's really gone. Now, I've tried to explain this before to people that when you really, really clear somebody of something, they will forget sometimes, even they will forget that you did anything. They will forget you had any part in what their new reality is at all. They will forget sometimes that they will remember. Now, this is what happens to a lot of us. They will remember that they came to you for something, but they won't remember what the problem was. So when it's really cleared, it's gone. The memory's gone too. And I wonder about this, because if we can't remember what happened, how can we learn? We ask how we forget everything. Well, because for that person, if you clear it all the way back, it never happened. That version of them, it never happened for them. You've shifted their consciousness to a version where it never happened for them. So unless there are some witnesses, it never happened. And they're going to think it's just not going to be there. It's going to be gone. Now you see where that kind of throws you into a loop, though. Because I have done that for many people and they can't even remember what happened. They can't, and for a while I'm like, why can't people? No, other people have run into this where they can't remember that there was ever a problem. If you clear it that completely, they will never know. This is also why we don't know how this all happened to us in the first place, is because for us, it never happened that way. It happened some other way. We've gotten, this is one of the ways you wipe people. The other reality didn't happen. Now it's still all there. Every version of you still exists. It didn't really go away. This is another mind-boggling thing about this. It doesn't go away. There's a record of it. There's a record. And this is, I think this is probably what they're calling the Akashic Library. So, yes. Oh, hey, Michelle, how you doing? A Vidalia onion. Yeah, absolutely. A Vidalia or one of those nice red onions. Yeah, that are actually purple. I love that shade of purple. Let's see. Philip Fire says, ever read about Thoth having a hand in creating A or the Matrix? I would expect, actually, knowing what I know, I would expect that he would have to have a hand in creating it. He would have to be one of the ones, or his lineage anyway. Because, well, I can tell you I had a hand in it myself. I had a part of it that I worked on. I'm a designer. I designed some stuff. It may be more than that too, but I don't remember all of it. I only remember bits. But I know because I started doing it again in this life. I started working on it again in this life. And it reminded me, working on it again in this life reminded me, wait a minute, I've done this before. Yeah, I've done this before. I've done something like this before. Damn, I've done something like this before. What was I doing? It was here. It was here. This is part of what convinced me about where we really actually are and what we're really in. So it was that deja vu. Wait a minute. Even some of the tenets of it, designing, even the toroidal field, you can't hardly make, if you don't have a toroid shape, there's so many things you can't create. Toroidal field is extremely, and it turns out that that's what the world really, what shape the planet really actually is. Planets really usually are, have a toroidal field, and they're really toroidal. I know there are people that are going to argue till the cows come home about that. It's not important as understanding what a toroidal field does. It allows for movement. Okay. The toroidal field is very movable. That's part of the way to explain it. Once again, words are rough to come by. We've been babbled. So I'm doing what I can to try and describe this to you. And a lot of times we have to resort to stories, and it's kind of like it is the idea of this. Okay, it is the idea of this. So this is why I do exercises to reprogram your subconscious, to clear out your subconscious, to reprogram it, to take out the limiting program. Okay. And we can refer to it like a program because it is. It's a lot like that. It's a lot like a code was put in there. But remember, it's a frequency. Okay, because everything really runs on frequencies. So we have to take out that frequency if we want to get you past that certain thing. And if you flatten that frequency completely and completely obliterate it, then you have no residue left, and the person's going to totally forget what happened and never know that anything was ever any different, except for some vague recollection that they came to you for some reason. Kind of makes it hard, though, sometimes to get future business because the person can't even tell people what you did. That's the problem a lot of us ran into. Um, so you have to have some kind of mechanism by which they remember what happened, sort of, so that it's not so entirely wiped that they can't remember that it ever happened. And that's the rough part. Yeah. So, does that answer your question, Philippi? Or, you know, is that I would be surprised if thought didn't have something to do with this. And each of us here that are asking these questions in this group, my suspicion is we all had a hand in it too, you included. Because if you're asking this question, there's a reason you're asking this question. If you feel that you were a part of this, almost guaranteed you were a part of this. Okay? And I can't prove that. But I can be like 99% certain that if you are even bothering to ask these questions and wondering if you're a part of it, if you had a hand in creating the matrix, yes, you probably did. Some version of you created the matrix, helped in creating it. All of us did. Probably every real person in the matrix had a part, perhaps. Remember, a lot of us aren't, it's not really us. A lot of people are background people. They're not actually attached to a soul. And so they wouldn't have then had a part in it, because only a soul can do that kind of thing. Only a piece of God can do that. Okay? And you're not even really a piece of God. You are the totality of God, and yet we can't look at it that way and understand it. So let's look at ourselves as being a part of God, a spark. Okay, there's something similar going on with the White Queen Alice in Wonderland about sinks and deja vus. Yes, yes, there is. There's a couple of stories that always stand out to us, don't they? I mean, they're always with us, and it seems like they grow in meaning over time, don't they? And the two stories that stand out really the most are Alice in Wonderland and Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right? And they just seem to grow in meaning, grow and grow and grow in meaning as you look at the world. And that's why they're so persistent. There's some stories that are like that. They're so persistent. The hero's journey, whichever hero's journey you're following, is so persistent because there's a lot of meaning in that. There's a lot of truth in it. There's truth in it. Alice in Wonderland, a weird type of amnesia, yes. Exactly. Exactly. And I would say a modern prophet was the guy who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. The more I, the longer I go on here, the more I see that he was a prophet. Whether he knew it or not, I don't know. He'd get drunk and write this stuff in a little bed and bath, a little, he'd hide himself away in a little bed and bath and write this stuff. Well, hey, Carlos Castaneda, go away somewhere and write his stuff. All of these people who have these enduring legends, they kind of hid themselves away and wrote this stuff sometimes in a very altered frame of mind. And say what you want about an altered frame, because alcohol, pot, alcohol, drugs. It's like, okay, some people have different ways of getting to their subconscious. Okay. I mean, please, let's just set that aside. That's, a different issue. There are people who, yes, you can meditate your way into it. Some people have an easier time letting go of the outside world when they use certain things. Okay. I'm not going to argue over the right and wrong of that. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is there something immoral about it? People always want a reason to feel sanctimonious, don't they? Well, I didn't need to use that. I was even one of them at one time. I didn't need to use XYZ. But when I think of it, yeah, we all do use, for instance, acid. Oh, yeah. Your brain makes it naturally, and DMT. So we all used it. We all use it all the time. And it really gets released after you die. So right in those last few, I guess, minutes, hours, days, I guess some people say it's all in the last few seconds, whatever. But basically, yeah, we all use it. Our brains make it. Our brains make these substances. So the active stuff, our brains already make that. That's why we get anything. I mean, that's why anything comes. So what I did at one point was I intended that it get turned up a bit. I didn't want to turn it up a lot because turning it up a lot and living in that would be hard to relate. When you're too much into that, it's hard to relate to regular reality. You can't do it. It's very hard. So I didn't want to turn it up a lot. I just said a little bit more, please. Create a little bit more. Manufacture a little bit more. Just a little bit more. You could ask the same thing, see what happens. And it did. It started manufacturing a little bit more. So that's one of the ways you can hack yourself, is start intending that you're going to be manufacturing just a little bit more of these substances than you were before. Well, thank you. Oh, you've seen the entire thing? Yeah, I've seen the series too. I've seen the entire series. I've seen the movie, more modern movie, the English version, or not the English version, the American version. So basically, these movies, these stories, one of the reasons they're so funny is because they're true. There's truth in them. Not that they actually happen literally just like that, but that there are bits of them that you recognize. You really recognize. There are bits of Alice in Wonderland you really recognize and relate to because you've been there. That's why it's so enduring. Okay. These stories that are very enduring, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Star Trek. We've been there. We've been there. We've been in something like that. Okay. That's why they're so enduring. And some things just kind of are forgettable. But there are some things that just never, stories that just never go away. And some of these have lasted hundreds of years now. The hero's journey has certainly lasted a long, 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 long time, which is really a lot of stories, but it's really just one story. Oh, let me see how we're doing on time here because I really only want to do 2 hours at a time anymore because otherwise my body starts bitching at me, my Abby, my little avatar here. And I want to take care of it because I got things to do. I'm gradually upgrading it, but it's really a stubborn little Abby I've got here, a very persistent little Abby in some regards, which probably was helpful at some point, probably is helpful. So if you've got a pretty persistent Abby like I do, you know that you have to do a lot of convincing of your Abby to go along with your plans sometimes. You got to do a lot of convincing. Yeah, I guess I'd have to put it that way, for lack of a better way. Oh, okay. Yes, like Alice, we often give ourselves good advice and don't follow. And you know what? And we'll give others good advice too. And then we'll sit there and go, why am I not doing that? We're smart. We'll sit there and go, I should be doing that too, actually, shouldn't I? And if we're real smart, we go ahead and do it. How many of us are really that smart? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Um, well, I am Ocean's Deep Blue for a reason. Ocean, because I'm deep. I am. I'm really deep. But I promise you, I have no crabs. Sorry, no crabs. I do like crab rangoon, but I don't have crabs, and I don't have a sandy bottom either. So, and you don't have to worry about sharks. Oh my goodness. So my little Abby's kind of, yeah, kind of letting me know that it's that's okay, Abby. Just keep going a little bit. We've got about another less. We got maybe another half an hour to go yet. Is all. Um, so I have said these things in this very stream in this show and in my shows and my other streams. I said these things. I'm not sure people really believe them or hear them, or maybe they only half hear them. That's another thing I found out. If people are not ready to hear it, they can't hear you. Really? Remember that Jesus character guy? His name wasn't really Jesus, but you remember that guy that they're calling Jesus. Okay, those who have an ear to hear, what he means is obviously there's another very enduring story, right? There's some very enduring stories right there. Um, if you can hear it, some people will not be able to hear you. Or if they hear it, they will not understand it. And if they are not ready to hear it, they won't be able to hear. I have actually literally, and I don't mean just that they'll sit and think it's garbled, because that happens sometimes too, where it's just garbled to them and they don't understand it. You're hearing wah, 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 right? That's all they're hearing. But some people won't even know you said anything. It's that, or it'll be, like I said, it'll be garbled. And I have seen this happen too, where I have said something that really should be obvious. It should be, the words were not big or hard to understand, but they still didn't understand it or hear it. And in some cases, they even hear it backwards. And I think that's their programming. So that's another thing that happens that really will freak you out at first, a little bit, is that I just said that. Oh, sometimes their subconscious will hear you and they'll blurt it out like they just thought it up. This happens all the time too. Drives us crazy sometimes. Me and my friend Paul talk about this sometimes, our stories where this has happened, where we'll say something maybe to somebody for 20 years. We tell them something. They can't hear it. They can't hear it. They can't hear it. Can't hear. All of a sudden, they come walking up and they go, "You know what? I just figured out something." Exactly what you've been telling them for the last 20 years. But now they're willing to accept it because they think they've thought this up all on their own. But the message finally got through, and it's like, yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that. That's, that's a good thought there. I'd say go with that. Yeah, happens all the time. All the freaking time. So this is why it's so hard for us to make like vast changes. Even this guy they're calling Jesus, trying to make a change in people's minds and in people's attitudes, trying to, and I think really that whole story was about trying to relay to us, convey to us, and they cut out the best parts, or they downplay them, gloss over them. Know ye not that ye are gods and sons of gods? Okay, who said that? Okay, that kind of thing. I used to get in such trouble at Sunday school for saying that kind of thing, asking about that. And it was obvious to everybody there that my soul needed saving and that I wasn't really born again and I needed to be born again. I was born again and again and again. They had to born me a lot of times because it kept going, defaulting back to, yeah, but what about this? Better late than never. Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm so glad you figured that out. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Yes, brilliant. It's This is where you really got to swallow your ego, folks. is when people don't remember that you ever did anything, and when they don't remember that you ever said anything either. That they act like they just came up with it all on their own, had this genius thought. It's like, okay, because what are you going to say? Unless you've got books out saying, yeah, it's right here in the book. Maybe that's why so many people are authors. Maybe that's why I need to be an author too. Maybe I need to be an author so I can say, it's here in the book. I told you this a long time ago. But I've been that lunkhead too that has, that's happened to me too, where people goes, I have been trying to tell you that. It's like, oh, now I get it. Okay. Okay, I get it now. See how this is. This is why it's rough to get the change to happen. Is somebody comes in here and with the best of intentions, trying to educate us, there's all of these things blocking it that are interfering with it. This is why, really, now that we're in this age, we need to unblock our subconscious so we can receive these messages. We need to be able to receive. We need to be clear so we can receive these messages. Hey, Justin. Yeah. Well, yeah, questions and free thinkers. And if you think about it, if you're trying to hold together a sim and make it realistic, you wouldn't want that, would you? You wouldn't want those people because they're, flying in the face of what you're trying to create, what you're trying to hold in place, lock it down, so to speak, the reality you're trying to lock down. So creative and free thinkers kind of call all that into question and make it all kind of shaky, right? So read the book. Um, maybe, I don't know, Dianetics. Seems like it was Dianetics. Funny, since my first name is Diane, is actually Diane. I really got to look into that because the dia means God, basically. Dianetics. Dianetics. It should be my book. I should be getting all the royalties for that. Like I said, maybe I need to write a book. Then finally I could go back and say, it was right here. Okay. We can't even count on that because now we find that some of the books that have been written, that the written pages, that the stuff can change. Even what's written in the pages of books can change. And not a misprint. That freaks me out. Um, like I said, I still sometimes get a little freaked out by what they're calling the Mandela effect. And if you think about it, Mandela and the Mandela. And if you ask me, one of the things that the Mandelas got it, those nice round Mandelas that we see from India, I look at those and I see maybe they're trying to express all these different realities that we're in that are kind of like each other, but not quite. Um, I mean, some of those are probably trying to express the nature of our many realities. And to make it more weird is we're in it all simultaneously. We don't really have past and future lives. We have simultaneous lives. They just look like past and future. It's just the way we understand things here. There are dimensions where they're just all at once, and you can tell that they are. There are places, dimensions, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Diana, yeah, the goddess. Yep, you're right. Who is Diana? Ticks. Well, ticks are parasitical little creatures. Maybe, maybe, maybe they're the ticks that were sucking off Diana, goddess. Yeah, I knew as a kid. Of course, now it's kind of funny because my mother being a Christian, but naming me a Greek goddess name after a Greek goddess. I don't know if she thought of it that way, but really, Diana, Dia is God. So maybe I'm a really good person to start telling you that you're God because I know that I'm God. I'm even named God. I'm even named goddess. I'm named after a goddess. But Dia, I'm God. But so are you, even if you're not named, Diana. Um, so this is the point, and I've tried to say this too. Please hear me. Try to follow this. You make reality. When I say you are divine, you are. You really are. You really are. You really are. You have a soul. You're divine. You're divine. Okay? You are. You wouldn't have a soul otherwise if you weren't divine. And people without souls would not be able to understand this channel at all. They wouldn't be drawn to this at all. They got their heads in every other damn thing, sports, whatever. They're so into that, they would never even dream of coming in here and thinking about this. That's what I think anyway. That's my personal belief. Is if you're in here, you're divine because this is what you're thinking about. Because you're not an NPC. That's why you can think these thoughts. Let's see. Take things more lightheartedly, yes. Uh, actually, true. Too much attachment to your memories. And yeah, um, okay, that's probably part of it too. Is this persistence of our memories that keep telling us, no, because we've got it installed. No, you're just a human. You're not a god. No, you're just a human. You're not. We actually have a worship gene. And I'm wondering, and it came up, I think, last time I was on, what was that gene before it was a worship gene? Because that was altered. It's obvious that our genetics were altered. Obvious. Now that we're able to look at these things. So, what was that gene before it was a worship gene? And can we unlock that to where the worship gene is no longer about worshiping? What if that gene was always about knowing that you were God? I don't know. Could that be it? I don't know. Tell me. Let's meditate on it and see if we can come up with the answer to that one. That little gene there. But whatever it is, I'm going to intend that whatever it is goes back to its natural state, its unaltered state. And then we can see what it really does. That we find out what that gene was supposed to really do before it got altered into a worship gene. Might be. Oh, the gene genie. Yeah, lives on his back. That's my boy, David. That's my man, David. Um, it's his song. Yeah, that's the thing. What if that is the God gene? What if the worship gene, you, you unscrew that up and it's a God gene? It's a knowing you are God. What if it got reversed? What if that's the one that says, yeah, you're God? That would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Because in order to make you think you're not God, you'd have to alter something. That may be it. Aha. And maybe if we revert that back to its original state, it's like, huh, I'm God. Of course I am. Here, Alakazam, whatever. Blue jeans. Just met a girl named Blue Jean. There is a chance I influenced that song because I was in contact with him when he wrote that. When that song came out, I was in contact with it. Um, but I don't know if I really influenced that or not. But but the funny thing that made me laugh was this is what I actually did have is because my lip color, my lip color was lilac, and it was actually an eye color. So the pin going on, my channel's doing weird things. Um, acid wash jeans, right? Acid wash jeans. There we go. Yep. Um, buffering. Okay, so yeah, how weird is that? Hmm. That he mentions in Blue Jeans. I've just met a girl named Blue Jean. She's got lilac lips. I used to say, yeah, I have to use lilac. That's the color that really most closely matches with this shade called iced lilac, which they stopped making, by the way. So I never found anything that matched quite as well. But I told him, I said, for some reason, my tones are more purplish. They really are. They're more lilac colored. They're more so my makeup has to be kind of lilac based in order. Did I influence that song? Because I remember saying that in chats way back, way back. I'd have to see if the song came out first or if, the internet, I'd have to see the exact year and everything that all this to see if it lines up. But it would be so funny if I influenced that. But I remember telling him when I was talking to him is that, and then when I go, there's a story where they do play old songs like that. I swear every time I walk in the door, that song comes on. I usually come in the door. Okay, David, I know you're there. You're around. She's got lilac. I still have one pencil left of it, but the it was a retractable and it's gone. But I kept the pencil just to remember it. Yeah. I really had lilac lips. Ice lilac lips. That was my color that I used. It was really for your eyes, but it worked on my lips better. Yep, literally. Favorite lilac lip gloss. Yeah, lilac lip gloss and lilac lip gloss. That was another thing. Yeah, there was a lilac one, yeah, that I like to wear. It might even be the same one. Yeah, over here too. It's buffering. Buffering. Remember there was a ad for that. There was a pill called Bufferin, wasn't there? Bufferin, Bufferin, Bufferin. Yeah. I like sure. And that was really and it's funny because then when I saw what I really looked what I guess I most recently came from, those people are kind of lilac colored, kind of a periwinkle blue. So we're kind of periwinkle blue. And that would be sort of lilac. I mean, a sort of lilac skin tone. Um, yeah. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's even genetic and it's giving us this sort of a lilac tone. Um, although not very pronounced, it would still maybe be in the background there. So, yeah, it was a painkiller. Anison. Yeah, I remember that. Anison and Bufferin. Yeah, I remember those. So, anyway, that's what I got for you tonight. Pretty much any questions. I'll open it up for questions. And if nobody has any, I may toddle off a bit early, but um, I'm also open to talking a little bit more if you want to for a few more minutes. But I have to keep moving my Avi because I don't want it to lock up on me. We're still dealing with fibro, and I think that fibro is not what they say it is. I don't think fibro is what they say it is at all. Because I've gotten through the worst of it. I don't have the worst of it, but I really think that fibro comes from a type of poisoning. So I still have flare-ups, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. Honestly, bone broth has helped a lot of things. Um, there are some things I really would recommend if you can do them if you're not a vegan or something. Um, bone broth, really, really helpful. Yeah, one of them had caffeine. Okay. Oh, Karen, hi. How you doing? You just made it for the very end. Yeah, I think it did have caffeine. Yeah, that makes sense. Because there was one my mother wouldn't give me until I was old enough, and that was probably why caffeine. And one you didn't want to take before you went to sleep. Yeah, if it had caffeine, that would be it. Yeah, the one that keeps you going all day. That would probably be the caffeinated one. Hey, Karen Lynn. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have to run it back in order to hear what I was talking about. Oh, I just saw a message flash across here. One of my friends said, literally just said, oh, I just woke up. So she missed it too, missed everything too. Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby aspirin. I remember those. Give you baby aspirin. Orangey. Oh, Ritalin. Oh, yeah. Mm. But you know what? It's funny since they found another cure for a cure, not really a cure. Another way to treat hyperactivity. It's not speed. Funny how we're seeing a decrease in hyperactive kids, isn't it? Because mommy and daddy can't steal the speed anymore if it's not prescribed. See, that's one of the things that was happening is that people were having hyperactive kids, and then you get a hyperactive kid, and then if you can get the doctor to prescribe Ritalin, you just had the doctor prescribe speed. Now you've legally got a hold of speed. Don't think that it wasn't a cottage industry, okay, to have a hyperactive kid and and sell his speed. That was part of the problem with Ritalin, which is probably why they changed it finally. But yeah, there was a lot of people, all these people with hyperactive kids. Imagine that, all this hyperactivity. Well, some of it was probably the food, but some of it probably was mommy and daddy saying, I can make a fortune with this kid. And as nasty as that sounds, yeah, um, that that was the way it was. So people do that stuff. They also do it with painkillers. There are people who actually, I've heard stories of that too. They'll beat up their relatives and steal the painkiller. Beat on the girlfriend or the kid or whatever and take the painkiller. So, yep, that happens. People do stupid stuff like that. They do nasty things like that. Well, let's not dwell on that though, but it happens. That's why it's got to change. Needs to change, but you know, it is gradually changing. We're going to see big changes this spring, though. Like I was saying earlier, I'm seeing this vernal equinox is going to be different. Things are going to be way different. Right. Parents would literally teach their kids to get diagnosed. I know. It's just, oh, well. Some of them do it themselves. They know how to fake a diagnosis. Um, Something that'll get them diagnosed with a particular thing. Which is why they're so careful about giving out painkillers now. Oh, for oxys. Oh my gosh. Yeah, oxys. Wow, you can really get hooked on oxys. I know some people got hooked on that. Usually it's after a bad accident, very painful accident. Then they decide, oops, looks like you might be getting hooked on it. Then they pull it. If the person still has, then the person goes through withdrawals. And then they start looking for the street drugs. That's what happens to a lot of them. I've heard about this over and over. A lot of them started out on the medical version and they got it yanked. Now they're looking for the street version because they can't do without it. So that's why I usually try to do things naturally as much as possible so I don't get my body used to depending on something else. Although there are some times when honestly I need the help. I need a little help. But you know what? I use alcohol. I will. I'll use alcohol as a painkiller. It works for a lot of things. Um, and it's probably less dangerous than most pharmaceuticals because your body kind of understands alcohol. It's fermentation after all. So, you know, there's been times when couldn't get to sleep because of the pain, just some did some alcohol. So, yep. So basically, that's another thing. We don't have to be there. Most of my forays into medicine have been because I've had so much going on with me into alternative medicine. Yes, I've had so much going on with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother, would I? Would any of us really bother with it if we didn't have anything wrong with us? Right. So, yeah. So basically, yeah, I was on fentanyl for a while. Yep. Now, very dangerous. Now they're saying how dangerous that is. Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons I told the doctor I didn't want to take it anymore. I was on the patches, and the patches would leak sometimes. And you get a much bigger dose when you were in the summer when you were sweating, you would get a much bigger dose. And it would be and if somebody saw you with a patch on your arm, I actually had somebody seeing the patch on my arm try to buy the patch off my arm. It's like, whoa. Then I thought to myself, what if I was in a position where they saw the patch and, it's like, and they weren't taking no for an answer? And I said, oh, I don't want a patch. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, usually when you're in horrific pain, you're seeking a way out. And that's how most people get involved in the first place. If they didn't get themselves into tremendous pain, they wouldn't have to get themselves out of tremendous pain. But we all know that it's pretty easy to get yourself into trouble like that. Some of us are just very stubborn. So, like when I tore my shoulder, my cuff, um, I was stubborn as hell about it. Yeah, I was so stubborn. I used my comfrey cream and knocked myself out with alcohol and didn't go to the hospital. Oh, yeah, but those patches, those were dangerous as hell. I knew somebody who got hooked on them. I knew somebody who found a way they'd suck that fluid in there up into a needle and inject it. They got in trouble too, of course. Yeah. Not good. Yeah, I hope you've been changed to something else. It's extremely addictive. Heck, yeah, they'd be better off just giving you straight morphine. Anyway, so that's how a lot of people got addicted in the old days too. Poppies for young men. What Sting wrote that song? All for the Children's Crusade. Poppies for young men, death's bitter trade. And it wasn't just poppies as flowers on the grave. It was opiates, opium poppies. That's another thing that changed. What kind of poppies produce the opium that they use in drugs? The white ones or the red ones? And when I was growing up and they gave us lessons, and they did give us lessons. Believe me, we were growing up in that time when drugs were a big issue. And I was always told it was the white ones. Now people tell me it's the red ones. Is that Mandela affected or what? Is that still true? I don't know. Wizard of Oz, yes. Poppies made him sleep. So did the asbestos snow. That snow is made of asbestos. I'm there like, asbestos snow? They didn't know how dangerous it was. There's so many things like that. Willy Wonka was all terrible things happened to people who did Willy Wonka. They got terribly sick because they did stupid shit in that movie too for special effects. Buddy Ebsen ended up not being the Tin Man because in Wizard of Oz because he was allergic to the aluminum makeup. There was actual aluminum in the makeup. Do you know how bad that is? Yikes. Yeah, apparently, apparently, when I was growing up, the white poppies produced were the kind that made the drugs that they made the drugs out of, and the red ones were not. But I think somebody told me recently that it was red ones. So now it could have changed. That could be Mandela affected. Oh, notice I'm not swelling tonight. I look so different when I'm not swelling. Yeah. When I'm swelling, I look entirely like a different person. I think. I'm not swelling very much tonight. I get swelling problems. Um, I'm still working with that. Still working with that. I am getting over it gradually. Okay, because there are red and white ones too. I'm greenish blue tonight. On the monitor, I'm kind of greenish blue. Really? Maybe my avatar is coming through from the movie. Do you think we were really in some kind of a sit? That might have been disclosure too, for all we know. How do we know that the movie Avatar wasn't disclosure? Star Trek was disclosure. You know what I think was disclosure that a lot of people overlook? I really think it was a type of disclosure. And another reason, it's another enduring one, recent but enduring, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I think that was a type of disclosure. Because think about it. These two naive people, what do they represent? Very naive people show up at Frankenfurter's house where all kind of debauchery goes on, including cannibalism. And who is the victim? A rock a rock and roll singer turns out to be eventually a rock and roll singer. But who is he? He's a motorcycle riding um, misfit, right? And later turns out to be a rock and roll. I thought that was so interesting. Um, and really how the whole idea of disenfranchised youth getting sucked in and then eaten up um, by it. That's right. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, toast. Everybody throws toast. I had a lot of friends who used to drag me to that on a regular basis. I had friends drag me. It was cool. I mean, it was funny, but on another level, it's also, I think, a type of disclosure. Because think about the plot and how it goes, right? And then at the end, it's like, don't dream it, be it. Right? Don't dream it, be it. And then it's like, it's time to go home. And the servants end up being the ones that are instigating everything. So that's kind of weird. I mean, if you think of it, the imagery of it, and then they're all swimming around in a pool with, they're all in drag, all swimming around in a pool together in drag. And the at one time naive people are now not anything but naive. And what do they represent? Yeah, I'm not going to go into it, but you can imagine. I was looking at that and I was going, who knew Rocky Horror Picture Show was disclosure about what was really going on, right? Yep. uh, yeah, bat out of hell. Meatloaf. Like a bat out of hell, it'll be gone before the morning comes. Uh, I'll miss Meatloaf. Had some good music there. Maybe I'll see if I can get in touch with him on the spirit side someday. Yeah, Meatloaf. That's where that name came from. It's that movie. So yeah, I think that's another one that's going to be stuck in our consciousness, in a in our collective consciousness for a while. It's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Um, just like Star Trek is another one. Star Wars is another one. Yeah, and they're going to get stuck because they're familiar and they're real. There's something real in there, even though they're not real. They're manufactured, but they're not. But they're also real stories. They're remembering. A lot of times, I think people are remembering. And Douglas Adams, was he having memories come back? Yeah, it's just to jump to the left. Actually, isn't it? It is, because the leftists are woke. That's funny. It really is a jump to the left, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's even another one. Yeah, vintage cartoons and children's programming. Literally, TV is programming. It's funny because What the Flock TV has this little sound bite that goes, you being programmed, with a picture of a TV. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and it's got the progression from the ascent of man up from an ape, and then it goes back down into a sheep, watching a TV. I was like, yep, yep, somebody got that. Close Encounters, yeah, that's another one. What, you feel I'm going to get in touch with Meatloaf? Maybe. That wouldn't surprise me because a lot of them come through. A lot of them have come through. The three that seem to hang around a lot together are Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, and Prince. They seem to hang around together a lot. People see them hanging around together a lot. And when they meet one, they usually meet the other two too. You know who else showed up? I guess he had been showing up to me. I just didn't know who he was. I mean, sometimes people show up and they don't even have a name to me. I mean, I don't even, because I don't always hear names. A lot of times I don't. And I guess I guess it was Tupac. When he showed up, he said, I said, Tupac? Because by now I knew what he looked like. And he said, yeah, who do you think helped you write that one rap song you wrote? Okay, thanks. I only ever wrote one. I didn't know I was writing it until I wrote it. After I wrote it, I go, this is a rap song. That was Tupac. And I said, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know who you were. I wasn't a fan. And he goes, it doesn't matter. He told another friend of mine the same thing. Showed up to her. She didn't know who the heck he was. He had to explain who he was. And he said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you know who I am or not. I'm just here to help. Tupac was, I guess, a really good guy. Is a really good guy. Sorry, Tupac, don't mean to cast any shade on you now. You are a really good guy. You've actually been around quite a lot and helped some people, as far as I can tell. You're a good guy. Um, well, Green Men. And it's pelvic thrust that really drives you insane. Yay, 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 yay. Yeah. Let's do the time warp again. And of course, I had back then, my vibe was a little bit more magenta. It was like, no, not at all. No, not at all. Um, but yeah, we dress up and they still play it every now and then in town. They every now and then you'll see it playing at a movie in town. Everybody dresses up and goes to it. So yeah, it's pretty weird. And now, like I said, now I think of it as, yeah, this is disclosure. So anyway, it's been 2 hours now. It's been a little over 2 hours, but we were having such a fun discussion here. I have muse magic. You know what? That's what I told David, and he believed me. He told me. He said I was his muse. For a while, I was, I guess, one of his muses. Um, yeah, I told him because I said, that's why I'm so amusing, is because I'm a muse. I didn't know it was David Bowie at the time, though. I didn't know who he was yet. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they say behind every good person there is a cat. And let's see if I can. There he is. There's the cat that's behind me. He's asleep. Okay. Love to you and yours too. Thanks for showing up. Yeah. And remember, you are divine. Try to remember that. Try to dredge it back up. You are divine. You don't have to worship anybody. You don't have to sell your soul. You don't have to make deals with anybody, entities, or you are divine. We can get through this. We can do this. We can do this ourselves. We can. We just need to get back to it. Who we are. Okay. Love you very much. Hope to see you Sunday, which my days are Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, right around 10. I'm thinking of having it at 10:10. Ren time, 10:10. And so glad that you could all come and find my channel, which is nice because really I was beginning to lose hope because, I you can hear me bitching on a couple of my shows about what the tube has been doing to us. So very hard to run a small channel sometimes. Okay, so but I'm looking into Rumble. That's going to be the first one probably, and then BitChute and some others. But okay, anybody know how to do this Rumble and BitChute and all that stuff? Let me know if you are willing to help. And love you guys. Remember, truth is where you find it. Hope you find some on my show. And I'm going to keep bringing some lessons and thoughts and keep reminding people that they are divine in various ways and how to get our divinity to surface again. Okay? How to get our super hacked God mode. How to unlock that. We'll work on it. See you next time. Okay. Vogue. Oh, Vogue. That one. Oh, and Pets for Cowboy. Yes. Well, he's asleep. I'll pet him when he wakes up. Every now and then I hear a strange little snort, kind of, oh. My little boy, he's so sweet. He's such a sweet little boy. Okay, um, that's it. Monday, Wednesday, Sunday. Yeah, the next time will be Sunday, and I might have some little things come up, but they won't be live streams probably. I don't I might try some live streams in the daytime, but we'll see. But I might have some pre-recorded stuff come up and so on. I'm trying to work on that now that I have another video editor. I found a video editor I can stand because for a while I couldn't find one like my old one that I could stand. It was just driving me crazy. So I tried CapCut for a minute and then I had to cut CapCut. It was just too TikTok. So I had to get rid of that one and then there were several others, but I think I found one now. It's just called movie editor or video editor or something. His real simple name. So it's like maybe I found it now. Um, love is the answer, but what is the question? Yeah, love is the answer, but now we've got to find the right question, just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Okay, the answer is 42. Oh, what's the right question? Okay. Okay, love you guys. Like I said, it's Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday around 10 o'clock Eastern. And I'll be here if you got some ideas what you'd like to see. I'm at oceandiana@gmail.com. And we do have a group in MeWe, MEWE.com. That's the Galactic Woo Crew. And if you plug in there, at least you can, it's a place for us to kind of leave our info. And I do mention in there, we do mention in there when the show's on, so that if you don't get notified, and MeWe is like Facebook, but just not with the data mining and all the other nasty stuff that comes with that. So that's what MeWe.com is. So when we're talking about that, okay. Tell people you love them, because some of them are going to be leaving us. And also, you're going to be leaving them. To them, it's going to look like you're leaving. To you, it's going to look like they left. So, yep. Okay, divine ones. See you Sunday. MeWe does sound like a kitty, doesn't it? MeWe. MeWe. Meow. Meowie. Meow. MeWe. Kind of does. Okay. Love you guys. I'm going off now. My little avatar needs a little movement, running around, doing something. Not running really, literally. I don't run. You see me running, you better run too, though. I'll tell you that much. You see me running, you better run too. Okay, bye-bye.